is Roxy. Our next episode is with Erin Fisher from Atlantic Mediation. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm
Very
so
good.
excited. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yes, let's get right to it. Tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Okay, great. My name is Erin Fisher. I run Atlantic Mediation Services. I've been doing mediation for years. And I actually grew up here in Loudoun County. I went to Parkview High School and went away to college, came back and supported State Department as a contractor and got my exposure to mediation overseas and also domestically. And I launched my business, unfortunately, at the beginning of the COVID-19 crisis, which is challenging, at best. But digital mediation has worked out, and in fact, the real ladies of Loudoun County have been really helpful and very supportive of the business so far. So I'm
Oh,
really happy.
yay. That's what I love. I love to hear when the ladies, when I talk to them, that they say that the group has helped their business, helped them give them exposure and make
Absolutely.
connections. At the end of the day, you want to make connections and get to know people and just have a good time and grow with each other, right?
Yes, exactly. So it's really great. It's such a great group.
Oh,
Very
yeah,
lively.
thank you.
You're
So
welcome.
is that so when you went to school, you say you were you also did some enforce with the law, something like
I
that?
worked in diplomatic security as a
Okay.
contractor. So essentially, I have a technical background and then also a communication background. So
So is
I
that where the whole becoming a mediator came about?
Yeah, so it actually started, as in HR and as a manager, working through conflict in general. And then about 10 years ago, I went through my own divorce and child custody dispute. And my ex-husband and I went through mediation, and it was such a huge benefit, and especially looking back 10 years and my relationship with him and how we're all remarried, so how we all get together as a parenting team. I really feel very deeply that mediation was the way that it worked for us, because we were able to have a more personal approach to unraveling our marriage and figuring out custody. And there was, the tension is diffused when you have a chance to really customize what right looks like to you. And so for us, that was huge. And then as I've gone forward, knowing friends and colleagues who've gone through divorces or gone through workplace disputes that they don't have necessarily a lot of control over the outcome, I was pushed towards mediation, and in my heart, that's really what I feel like I'm here to do. So I'm excited to help,
That's
especially
awesome.
women and families get. Yeah.
And the good thing is you can relate. I mean, you've been to the experience and you know the questions and answers and how they feel going into something like this. So to those who don't know what mediation is, what is mediation?
Mediation is, there's a trained facilitator, a mediator, who brings a party together. So two parties, either a husband and wife or coworkers that don't get along, and the mediator is neutral and facilitates a discussion. So as opposed to hiring an attorney where the attorney just represents you and your needs, this allows you to either sit across the table from the person that you're having a conflict with, or perhaps it through digital means, through Zoom or through electronic, and then also that you can do it through email, and you sit and you discuss how you're hurt, how you're feeling.
Oh, wow.
It's much more personal than throwing in a lawsuit, and then you talk about what looks right in the future. I mean, you have to. A mediator helps two parties move forward. What does the future look like? What does peace look like? And what's right for one person isn't right for everyone.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
so, yeah, so custody especially can be very personalized. Actually, in Virginia, we call it a parenting plan. It's really, how do you plan to be a parent for everything, for sports,
I like
events,
that. Of
holidays, and it's keeps the children first, which is so important, rather
course.
than going back and forth with attorneys. And then also, from a communication standpoint, when attorneys are going at each other, it's not personal for them. But when you hear it coming to you from an attorney, whatever your
Okay.
spouse is saying, someone that you used to love or care for, or you have a child with, it feels awful. And it doesn't. A lot of times it's lost in translation. So mediation is really a way to get to the root of the issue, talk through the personal aspects and your wants and needs, and then move forward. And the agreements are they're crafted, the mediator like myself would write up the agreement, but then each party adds to it and they add their pieces. I mean, some of my clients get very, very nuanced on holidays, what time of day they're coming over for Christmas,
It must
very
be
specific.
difficult when you're a parent.
Yeah, it is, and but if it, you take the time to go through it and write it out and really discuss what it's going to be. Oftentimes in the future, there isn't a dispute, and there's just a lot of peace, and most importantly, the children feel calm and comfortable.
Yeah,
And
there's
it's
no
the same, yes,
stress.
yeah, and it's the same with workplace disputes. Um, you have two coworkers that have to work together, especially in my situation, overseas work. It's there's no real time off. It's life safety requirements and things. People have to get go through their issues and move forward. And so for situations like that, from a corporate perspective, having the two coworkers that are disputing figure out what the future looks like for them, how they can work together, where the communication broke down, what is it irritating about each other. They can really
Yeah.
talk to those things. And often it is, prevents companies going through lawsuits as well. I mean,
Oh, wow. Look at
yeah,
that.
yeah, if the employees can figure it out and work together, then all the better. And often people come out at the other side respecting each other and perhaps even friends.
Oh,
It's
wow.
mediation is just it's a much more personalized approach to dispute resolution.
So what happens when you mediate? What are the steps? Some like I call you and I let you know what my situation is.
Exactly. So through either the website or on the phone, even email, even on Facebook, a message to I consult for free. If there's any
Oh,
questions out there, you ask the question: does mediation, is it something that may work for
right.
you?
For that situation.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a voluntary process, so both parties have to agree to be there and agree to mediate.
Oh,
And,
wow.
yeah, so it's you can't force someone into mediation. It's just agreed upon. And then also, at any time, either party can withdraw if they don't feel comfortable with it. I luckily have not had that happen yet, but it can happen.
I never knew that. I never knew that both parties had to be agreeable to it.
They do. And because whatever the agreement is in the end, if let's say you and I were having a dispute and we decided on a path forward and that's written up and submitted to the court, then that's something is legally binding. And so that's, something that any party that's mediating needs to consider. And then two, they can have attorneys review any documentation that's drawn up. And in fact, I work with attorneys all the time. Sometimes attorneys are so busy they can't get into the nuts and bolts of
More deeper.
yeah, exactly. And then two, the attorney fees are different than a mediator. So when you're paying your divorce attorney top $700 an hour, a mediation is a fraction of the cost, and it's often faster because the two parties that are in conflict, they're seeing each other and they can get to the meat of it very easily rather than waiting for emails to come in from an attorney and phone calls and
That's interesting. So I can actually hire a mediator even if I have an attorney.
yes, absolutely. In fact, it's often what happens. I don't know if you remember back in 2009, Bret Michaels, the lead singer of Poison.
I mean, he had his own show on VH1, right?
Exactly. Right. So everything everyone knows. But what's funny is that I don't know if you remember in the Tony Awards, he got smashed in the face with a prop and he broke his nose. And then 10 months later, he had like a brain hemorrhage, really awful stuff.
Okay, I didn't know. I don't think I remember all of that.
Yes,
Wow.
it was a while back. But that was in 2009. And so he hired attorneys and CBS hired attorneys, and they had been fighting through this issue and his ability to perform and his humiliation for being, it's all over YouTube. You can look up this injury, all of these things that are so
Trending. Take it.
you would think, right? But
Trending.
for him, he's very, very humiliated. And so, he had actually disputed with CBS until 2015 or so, and they couldn't get anywhere. And finally, the judge said, you need to go to mediation. And so privately, confidentially, which is another piece of mediation, mediators cannot testify. They cannot be involved. Everything that is told to a mediator, with a few exceptions, and I can get into those, stays completely with the two parties. And so the the personal feelings, the hurt, the shame, any of those issues, they don't leave the room. And so in that case, for Bret Michaels and for other people too, maybe not, but an extreme example, he was able to resolve the conflict after years and millions of dollars of lawsuits with attorneys. He did resolve it through mediation, and now he's moving forward,
Wow,
going on
look
tour
at
this
that.
summer, and yeah, it's an interesting thing. So yeah, mediation does work, and it's used all over the place.
That's awesome. So where in Virginia do you mediate?
So I can mediate in the entire state. So I focus mostly on Loudoun because I live in Ashburn if I'm doing them in person. But for digital mediation, I can mediate anywhere. And then also Mediators Without Borders is a group that I'm getting involved in, and that will allow me to do mediation worldwide.
Oh, that's so cool. So do you work with custodies, with, parenting and
I,
stuff? Yeah.
I do, yes. Custody issues, parenting plans, divorces, and also child support. So you're trained to figure that out between both parties. And there's an agreement to mediate at the beginning. And essentially that agreement between the parties and myself is that we're all going to do our best. So financial information that is required to figure out a divorce and a custody and child support, all of that has to be transparent, and that's something we agree to. And then from there we figure out what does right look like, what in 5 years, 10 years, when the child goes to college, what does
It can change throughout the years.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And I think too, it helps especially if a couple is stuck on what to do and really locked in on one particular aspect. A mediator can come in and get to the meat of the issue. Oftentimes, if
The
I was
core, right? Like you get right down and dirty with it.
absolutely, yes, and it's really you really dig in, and as a mediator, you're neutral completely. So I have no, I don't take sides. It's not like a judge, right? If you go to court and you're having a custody dispute, the judge is going to decide for you, and
Yeah.
so that really can be devastating to different parents if they're expecting it to go their way and it doesn't. In mediation, I could play devil's advocate. I can ask hard questions and have they can step away and we can come back and think about it. But really think about what does the future hold. And often, parents can figure out what's best and not have to rely on a judge to tell them, because it can really, the court system, it can go in a different direction, one that you're not expecting.
Wow. Oh my.
And especially for as a woman, and I had been a single parent for quite some time after my divorce. I have seen so many other women that have gone through it, and sometimes if you're not the breadwinner in the family, or your options are limited, especially in any sort of domestic violence issue, any of those really tricky things. If mediation is a possibility, even if you're not in the same room at the same time, if mediation is a possibility, the control and the power and the outcome really is much more balanced, because the mediator is there to make sure that it's fair on both sides.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow, you have a lot to do. You do a lot. So now during these times that we're in, our new normal, if you will, can you still mediate during these times?
Yes. So I had started right when I launched the website. Digital mediation is one of the hashtags that I use often, where basically like what we're doing now, we're sitting here and having a conversation.
Yeah, of
And
course.
yeah, and same thing. So mediation can we could do it this way. The third party would be on the screen with us, and we talk about it. The only concern that I ever have with digital mediation is confidentiality. So you want to
Yeah.
make sure that there's no one in the back room listening or behind you, and not in the
How do you make that work? What do you do?
I discuss it up front, and then as part of the agreement, that's listed that there's
Yeah,
no.
because if you break, I mean, you agree to the terms. Yeah.
Exactly. And so if someone were to violate that, then the mediation, I can also cancel a mediation if someone was dishonest.
Yeah, girl, you got the power too.
Exactly.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah.
I mean, you have to have control of your clients and your brand and everything, right? So
Yes.
right now, what are the top, I guess I don't even know how to say this, but what is that you're seeing the most of right now?
So, it's funny because we're all stuck at home together. The most inquiries I've had for mediation is actually relationships. So, potentially, the relationship is strained, certainly, because, everyone's stuck in the house together. But, there's no interest in anyone, breaking up or moving forward with someone else. But it's more of, we have the same issue over and over, and we can't get past it. And we're constantly fighting over
Oh
whatever
man.
the issue may
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
How do we get past it? And that's, been really pretty fun so far to hear both sides and figure out a path forward that works for both parties. And then that's, can maybe just take an hour, and that issue is resolved, and it's not something that's a speed bump that's continual. And if those, and that's, to that point too, conflict, it, unless you resolve it once and for all, it really doesn't go away. It's constantly a stressor. It's in the back of your mind. And then, I'm sure folks as well who will bring up something from the past,
Yeah, of course. Who
yeah,
doesn't do that?
yeah, exactly. So, really getting it resolved, it's very empowering and very freeing. And it also really improves relationships. And so you can drop the baggage, and just move forward in peace. Mediation is all about moving forward.
Oh,
You know,
you do a lot. I feel like you're a mix of everything.
yeah, it is. It's a lot of everything. And then I have professionals too that I'll rely on. I could refer people out to attorneys if they need them, or to therapists, or it's kind of a jack of all trades. But again, being the one difference, big difference for everything is, for, if mediation is completely neutral. So a therapist is going to tell you where you went wrong,
Yeah.
even if you're in couples mediation. Yeah, someone's usually right or wrong, and an attorney, same thing. But
That's hard work though, to try to be neutral. It has to be really tough.
it can be, part of it, I don't mediate typically for people I know very well. And
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah.
one way to kind of, yeah, exactly, family, yeah, like, I don't usually get involved in that. So that, that's part of one of the ways that, we're all human, to maintain neutrality. But they're oftentimes, I had done this also so much for State Department and diplomacy. There's really you can't really take a side. So it's something that has been, my training for over 2 decades. So it's a matter of really of the objective for anyone is just peace. How do you achieve peace? How do you move forward and let go of the past? And
Yeah.
so as long as I keep that in the center of my mind, yeah, right, exactly, then
Have
it's
you, have you,
easier.
have you ever had a client or clients and you were like, whoa, I need a drink after this one?
Sure, definitely. Usually when, there's a lot of emotion, it can be, a bit startling, though. When we've done it a while, emotion is just a natural part of the process. And often when someone's starting to get really angry, or getting to the point of they're really telling you what's in their heart, then you're making progress. And
Yeah.
so it's not so that's usually the trigger. The only, someone who, the only thing that there's rules in mediation for the couple, so, or the two parties, and that is, each person has their opportunity to speak. And so if I'm speaking and I'm saying my truth and I'm angry, the other person cannot jump in and start
Ooh, that's hard for a Latina like me. I want to be like, what?
So in your case, any case, I have had a paper
You
and a
have
pen.
to put something in my mouth and be like, Roxy, stop.
And that's it. You
Like
just
that.
say, hey, take your pen, write your points down. And it can be challenging. And that's also too, like, in terms of timing. So if you were uncomfortable with this, staying quiet for so long, then I would have a timer, and I would time one side 1 minute.
Okay, 1 second. I get all of it. Now here's a funny question. I don't you only do adults, or do you, I mean, I'm sure you can do siblings, but is there a certain age? Because
It really can be for anyone. So I'm actually met with Loudoun County's the school system, and they're starting a restorative justice program, and that's where you are a mediator between students that have been, so there's been some sort of conflict with them.
that's
That's what I would
awesome.
love
That is
to
so
expand.
good. Wow.
I would love to do more of that, but so far,
That's so useful. Wow, that's fantastic.
I think so. Like, especially nowadays, bullying and
Oh gosh, there's not even.
nastiness. Yeah, there's a way past it, and but as far as the school goes, you know,
Oh, good job, County.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're changing things. They're looking at restorative justice. There's some really good and people there that are trying to do things a little bit different, and also
Always good. Change is always good, especially if it's for the positive.
absolutely. And I think too, their objective is to make some of it less punitive for the students. So, you know, children are still learning, and their brains are still
We're
developing.
always learning, even as adults.
Yeah, we all are. And it's, you know, moving forward, I think if you were a student and you hurt someone else's feelings, you did something to them that is just egregious. Having the victim talk to the perpetrator, essentially, say, you know, this is what you did, this is how you hurt me, and this is the lasting effect. It really it can really help, you know, not only the person who's been hurt, but the person who actually who did the action, because they, you know, children aren't often thinking through what they're doing, you know. Yeah, and what does that look like, and how does, you know, down the road,
just do it. Don't even think of the consequences of what it does to somebody's soul.
Right, exactly. And so I'm hopeful that, you know, more students will, you know, through the school system or even privately, that, you know,
I think that's such a fantastic new thing. That's awesome. Wow, you just totally made my day with that.
That's awesome.
So before we end this really amazing and great episode, what are some tips or anything you want to leave our listeners with?
So I would say, don't let conflict fester. If you have an issue, definitely speak up and find a way forward. I think too, someone like myself, Atlantic Mediation Services can help you move forward and figuring out what right looks like, how peace is possible, and really how to use communication to get what you need, you know, in any sort of lapse that you have in your partner or your relationship. I think life is way too short as we go through this crisis, especially. Life is too short to have a weight on your shoulders, a burden, a conflict. There's always a path forward. It's scary to start, but that's where, you know, I can come in and help. And yeah, just happy to be here and happy to be in such a great community. And
thank you for everything you're doing. I'm so happy to know you and just be a part of your journey with everything, especially with this Loudoun County thing. Like, you seriously, that's amazing. I need to, as you know more about it, definitely let me know and see how I can help in any way possible.
Oh, that would be great. I would appreciate that.
Absolutely. Anything you want, you know that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being in our episode today. I really appreciate it. And I know we'll be talking more throughout forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take care, Erin.
Take care. Have a great day.
Bye.